Hi there, I'm Colleen Taylor, Backstage at TechCrunch Disrupt, New York City, and sitting with me are the gentlemen from SV Angel, Ron Conway, Brian Pokorny, and David Lee. Thank you for coming backstage.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
You just came off stage of a pretty diverse discussion with Michael Arrington, but I wanted to talk about one thing that you kind of touched on, which was that your belief, as a firm, that innovation is not dead. We haven't topped out when it comes to what can be done here in the tech industry. Do you want to talk a little bit more about why you feel that way?
Well, we think there's whole new sectors blossoming, and these sectors have blossomed just in the last year or so, what we call the Internet of Things, the education space, and then David talked about the health informatics space. So that would say we're far from dead.
And I just think that a lot of founders are gravitating sort of big, hard, important problems. So there's a company that we just invested in called MicroRhiza, which is sort of the Kickstarter of research. Or on the flip side, there's Science Exchange, which is almost like the O-Desk of basic research. And so, basic research is a fundamental sort of pillar of innovation, and the fact that founders are gravitating to those types of ideas is really encouraging. Yeah.
And SV Angel obviously focus on Silicon Valley, but we're here in New York City. Have you taken any meetings here in Manhattan? What have you been doing these past couple days?
Yeah, 25% of our portfolio, or 50 companies, are in New York. So we think New York is tracking on the trajectory that Silicon Valley is on. It's just a few years behind. But we had great meetings with Dennis at Foursquare. They're going to be announcing some very, very exciting product developments in June. And we think that the contextual data that Foursquare has amassed over the years is a huge asset for that company. Then we met with BetaWorks with John Borthwick. We think the acquisition of Instapaper by BetaWorks is very, very exciting. I think BetaWorks is putting together an awesome media slash news aggregation that's going to be very valuable for consumers.
We've had great meetings with portfolio companies such as Yext, which is kind of a silent giant in the whole location space, powering 150,000 small businesses' data across the web. Companies like ZocDoc as well, we spent some time with, and they're just doing amazingly well. And then business partners like Lair Ventures, Highline Capital, and Thrive Capital as well. So we've caught up with them as well.
And what are those business partner meetings like? Because we think of VCs as being sort of competitive with each other. How do you look at those relationships with other investors?
We actually, I think we try to be as open as possible with our portfolio. I mean, our goal is for companies that are in our portfolio and also that we're looking at to get funded. And I think the other investors that we work with feel the same way. So it is very collaborative in terms of we try to add value in a certain way, and we need other investors to add value in different ways. And I think we like to think that they feel the same way. So it's very, very open and collaborative because we all need each other to invest and work with these companies.
With any of the partners, we probably have, 10 to 50 co-investments together, depending on who they are. So a lot of time is spent talking about the current companies we're involved with together, issues we're working on, or key needs they may have, or financings they may be in, or new companies we're evaluating that may be of interest to them that we can syndicate and introduce the teams we're leading, or vice versa, to get more funding.
Cool, and I also want to ask, on stage you guys talked a lot about gun control and politics and these kind of big stances that you, Ron, especially are taking personally. Do you feel like that ever gets in the way of business relationships that you might want? I mean, do you think that you would invest in a company, whose founder or CEO is proudly pro-gun?
Well, from a high level, I just think it's important for the tech industry to embrace civic engagement. I think the tech industry for many years was isolated from civic engagement and not interested. And with the birth of SF City in San Francisco, which is basically a tech chamber of commerce in San Francisco, the tech companies in San Francisco have tried to improve San Francisco and get involved in some policy initiatives. In the case of immigration reform, it's hugely relevant, but it's relevant to the tech industry, but we also realize that comprehensive immigration reform is important for the whole country. As far as gun safety, I'm in favor of background checks in the legislation that failed in the Senate a few weeks ago. But I'm not going to hold it against anybody who disagrees with me on any of these issues. As long as they're civically engaged, I'm happy. We're against apathy.
Okay, that's a good way to put it. And last question here. I want each of you to tell me, and maybe you all concur on this, but what's the last idea or entrepreneur that you met and sat down with that you're just so inspired by and so excited about that maybe we haven't heard of yet or aren't so plugged into just yet?
Probably George at a company called Paper. The corporate name is 53. Now, if you said well-known, I would probably say Ben Silbermann.
Okay.
Is the rising one, but Ben Silbermann's pretty well known to everybody. But George, which at Paper, it's a New York company, I think is very, very inspirational.
Okay. What is it about him?
His passion for his product and the knowledge he has of his customer base.
There's a founder, Arjun Sethi, of MessageMe, which is a company we invested in, and I've been spending a lot of time learning from him, helping him. It's a messaging app that can allow you to send a lot more than just text messages back and forth. It's very well done, very smart founder, very inspirational and just innovative and thoughtful on the space he's in.
And mine is probably the founders at Science Exchange, one of the guys named Dan Knox. And what they're doing, I talked a little bit about before, but they're enabling and unlocking basic academic research. Academic research is like cooking school. There are so many inefficiencies there, and you're seeing the inefficiencies being unlocked by software. And they're providing a platform similar to Odesk where you can outsource your research. And I think that is really, really impactful.
Okay. 3 very different, very interesting companies, so I'm sure everyone will be looking those up right away, right now. Well, thank you so much for coming backstage, and enjoy the rest of Disrupt.
Pleasure.